we can only fulfill the commitments of our customers if we have the right tools and have the right data, and if we capture the data properly and then analyze this data. We've been talking about the data from the morning and the importance of having data and how we're capturing this data, but now it's very important to know like basically what is the best way to utilize this data and how having a single source of truth would benefit everyone who's working on the project throughout the asset lifecycle here. So we're talking about connecting data. There are a lot of data. There is historical data that has been captured during the asset lifecycle. There is current data. There are inventory management data, supply chain management data, data that was captured also during the project execution and the design phase from manuals, from as-built. And there are changes that has been captured during that cycle. So basically, there is a massive amount of data. We've been talking about also different ways of capturing data from drones. My colleagues has talked about different ways. So basically, we're talking about a huge and a massive amount of data, tons of data. So basically, if we look at the data challenges that's happening in our industry, number one, we want to make sure that we're ensuring a security and scalability of the data. So the security is a concern number one, the stability of this data. Then basically we want to make sure that we're breaking down the data silos, because as we said that this data is scattered in a different disconnected sources at different stages from a different system. So basically we want to make sure that we're able to have a kind of centralized, connected single source of truth that gather all this data from these different sources. Then basically we want to go and leverage this data. We want to leverage the analytics and insights of this data, and then we want to make sure that there is a consistency across your organization. So you want to make sure that when you capture data, when you start having these processes in place, there is a consistency in capturing all this data. As we said, that collecting the data is very crucial, aggregating the data, analyzing it and using it, and having a secure platform for that. And Oracle gives a lot of attention for the security. Even an example here, like in the UAE and Saudi Arabia, we do have a data center which is hosted here locally. So all the data is going to be hosted locally. All the data comply with all the highest level of standards and with the governmental standards of a security here. So basically, this is the concern number one that we were talking about it from making sure that the data is secure, the data is collected in the right way, the data is aggregated, and then we will see how the data can be used. So then we talk about standardization. I'm sure that there is always that debate that our project is unique or our assets is unique, we cannot standardize, etc. But you know that the industry has gone through a very advanced level where there are kind of organizational-wide processes that can be standardized, with also the flavor of giving a kind of flexibility to go and tweak these processes for a specific project or a specific need. So having a standardization would definitely improve the predictability, having a kind of standard processes, a consistent way of capturing this data, and then on top of that, we will see that having the analytics layer on top of the data. Then as a result, when you have a data collected properly, when you have a data standardization, when you have a secure platform that has this data, and when you have a connected platform, you will have a confidence and trust. You will be able to have a visibility into the asset health and asset life cycle, and then these data and insights will help you basically to look at what we call the predictive analysis that I'm going to talk about it today. So basically, if you look here, I mean, from a data and from the comprehensiveness framework that we have in the Oracle Construction and Engineering, so basically it starts from the infrastructure layer that we talk about it. We've been hearing about cloud and having this data in cloud, so basically a secure cloud layer which is hosted in the region, in the UAE or in Saudi Arabia, based on where is the customer is. Then basically we do have a connected layer of services and applications, and when we're talking about applications, it's basically connecting this data from the project initiation till the asset handover and the asset maintenance. So we're talking about like all the functionalities and capabilities, the connected functions from portfolio, capital planning, the scheduling, the pre-construction, the cost during the project phase, and then after that the asset cost from a design point of view, all the as-built drawings, the payment management. So basically having all these functions connected into one central platform And also, it has the capability to integrate with other external sources. So, for example, like we've been talking about drones, we've been talking about the Internet of Things and capturing all this data from an external kind of sources. So, the platform has connected all these functionalities from the project execution till the asset life cycle. And then on top of that, we will see the analytics layer and then the predictive analysis layer as well here. So basically, this is a kind of having a deep and complete and connected source of truth would definitely help you to look at the asset, to maintain the asset life cycle, and then basically start looking at predictability of your asset and issues that are going to happen. So to highlight this in more detail, so we're talking about like the full the full facility and asset lifecycle management. We've been talking, there are two main pillars. First, the project execution phase, and then the facility and asset management phase. And then here, during the project execution, we're talking about planning. We said the scheduling, the design, the estimates, the payments, the bidding, the contracts, etc. So all this is happening during the execution stage, and it is very important basically to have a platform, and this is what we do in Oracle. We bridge this gap and have, basically, and break these silos by having a connected platform that basically connect the project execution with the operation and handover. So basically, when the project now is done, we're done with the procurement and the build and the execution. There is the project closeout and the handover phase, and then from the handover, it will move to the operation and the maintenance stage, where in the operation, we're talking about like a lease management, space management, maintenance management, proactive maintenance, looking at the facility conditions, looking at the facility inventory planning. It's very important to have a connected end-to-end platform that basically connects the dots and connect all these functionalities from the project control till the project lifecycle movement, because when you have this connected platform, you will avoid having these silos and the disconnection and data and decisions at the end of the day. One aspect that it's very important also, like when looking at implementing and basically implementing these practices in your organization is to have the hierarchy. And I think my colleagues talk about this briefly, but basically when you start modeling your organization hierarchy from a region-wise, there is a flexibility to have the nodes that we talk about it from a region, from a site, from a building, from an area, etc. That would help you definitely when you want to start looking at the analytics or the reporting at any level. So for example, if I want to look at it at that level, at a master community level, or at a city level, or a country level, or basically at any level of details, you will be able to go and have a roll-up reportings and roll-up analytics at any level here. And also you will be able to have the security set at this level. So for example, if I am at a building, specific building, or a group of building, or a community, I'll be able to control the reporting and the security at that level here. This connected platform that we talk about and the connected common data environment would help you here. These are just an example of some transactional data that you're collecting the asset, you're defining the asset master, you will be able to organize it, track it, locate it, manage it, and visualize it. So it's very important basically to have the right platform that captures this data, that validates this data, that connects this data to the other processes. So when we have an asset, then we need to talk about an example of like the maintenance and preventive maintenance, and taking that through an approval and automated workflows in the platform here. That would make like all these processes streamlined and all these processes standardized, as we mentioned at the beginning, because like having a standardized processes that capture this data, that validates this data, and then process it into the analytics layer is very important. These are an example of like looking at the facility conditions of the asset, looking at basically the maintenance planning of the asset, capturing this data. And also, as we said, that having the capability to integrate with other external sources. So for example, like here, let's say in your building or in your asset, you have an HVAC system that communicates with an Internet of Things device, and then basically it sends and receives operational data. This data will be analyzed here, and when there is any anomaly that can go and trigger an event here in the system in the Oracle and construction platform, where basically it communicates directly with these external sources, and then it can go and trigger an event. It can create a work order, or it can create an incident or a service request based on that monitoring that's going to happen regularly here. When we have this data, we will be able to start slicing and dicing this data. We'll be able to start visualizing it running these analytics, and these analytics are flexible analytics that you will be able to run and you will be able to generate even without having the need of having a specialized skill set, etc. So, I mean, the tool is very flexible to visualize this data, to let you see the data here, and then you will be able to go and drill down and then reach to the level of details that you want. Depends on your level in the organization and your interest to go to the level of details that you want. So this analytics will be at the level that we want. So basically, we said that based on the hierarchy that you have, you will be able to go and generate these analytics. So if you want to look at it from a regional wise, you will be able to generate it. If you want to look at it from a cluster, from a type of business, you will be able to do that. There are a real world cases has used the Oracle and construction platform. So for example, the Blue Shield of Carolina has speed up the work order process by 50% by using the Oracle and construction and connected platform. Another example, Vista also, they have improved their lease turnarounds. They have 25 better space utilization and saving on the reportings. And there are many examples. These are some of the examples, the global examples that I want just to give you and share with you here. Now, the last thing that I need to talk about it here, we talked about, the insights and data, but there is another level here that now that we're focusing on and it's happening here, which is the prediction of what might happen in the future. So we have this data, we have a tons of data. As we said, we will be able to generate reports and validate this data, but what if that we're able to go and look at this data and utilize the machine learning and the artificial intelligence to start predicting the future. So based on this data and based on the huge amount of data that was collected during the asset life cycle and during the project execution, you will be able to start looking at the risk radar. You will be able to look at the tool will start, or the analytics prediction analytics layer will start learning from this data. So basically, it will monitor this data. It will start identifying any anomalies. It will start learning, and then basically there will be a human intervention to correct that at the beginning. And then after that, it's a smart platform that will start learning from these, from these practices, and then it will be able to go and predict the future. An example here that even, if we talk about it, for example, like during the planning stage, having an activity, and the tool will learn that this kind of activity that has this parameters, for example, that it might trigger a kind of delay. So basically, it will flag it for you at early stages that this kind of activity, it might cause a delay, and that delay might cause a delay in executing the project. And at the end of the day, the delay of the execution will have a subsequent impact on the asset handover and the asset utilization. So basically, it's so important to start learning from this data, predicting the future based on activities, predicting a delay, so that you will be able to take proactive actions. You will be able to uncover the hidden risk. You will be able to raise an early warnings, and this also applies in case of like the asset life cycle. So basically, it will start having these predictive analysis and predictive maintenance, and will start triggering an actions based on that. We said that by extracting these patterns, by learning from similar projects and assets, by identifying the anomalies, you will be able to apply these learnings, and then you will be able to connect this data, and you will be able to take a preventive action in the future. It's time to raise your expectations. It's time to basically start looking at how you want to capture this data properly, how you want to validate this data properly, how to have a single connected platform that connects all these functionalities from the project execution till the project handover until the asset life cycle is very crucial. And it's time for owners and property developers to raise their expectations and start aiming for having this full end-to-end connected life cycle.